Hi, Mage fans. This is your host, Terry Robinson with Mage the Podcast, and today we're presenting our first Mage Minisode, which are shorter excerpts or interviews that go out in addition to our regularly weekly episode. These cover either topics that maybe aren't as directly related to Mage as our main show, or maybe something that wouldn't quite make a full episode. Our other thought was to take a bunch of these and bundle them together and make potluck episodes, but we figured we'd give this format a try. If you really like it or really hate it or have a topic you'd like to discuss that may not make sense for a full episode but might make sense for a minisode, give us a holler. On Discord, we're discord.me/matesthepodcast, at matesthepodcast on Twitter, or matesthepodcast@gmail.com. Today's interview is with Rusted Icon, which is the licensed producer of World of Darkness merch like Glassware, dog tags, decals, and LARP badges. If you use the code MTP20 between now and December 1st, you'll get 20% off of your order. They are at rusted-icon.net. That is rusted-icon.net. Link is in the show notes. And with that, on with the minisode. Hi, Mage fans. This is your host, Terry Robinson, and our current guest is a fellow by the name of Chris Kinner, who works at Rusted Icon, who produces absolutely lovely and entirely legal World of Darkness memorabilia and such. So, Chris, how you doing?
Of all things considered, pretty good right now.
I'm fond of saying in plague-adjusted terms, I'm fine. You have the license for World of Darkness, and looking at your webpage, rusted-icon.net, it looks like your products kind of break down into a couple of basic categories. You've got a bunch of vampire stuff, a bunch of werewolf stuff, some mage stuff, hooray! A bunch of Mind's Eye Theater stuff, and then kind of other things. So you have the World of Darkness license. Are you a fan of the World of Darkness?
Absolutely. My friend first got me into a vampire LARP back in 1999, and it's been a part of my life ever since. Heavily into vampire, quite a bit into mage, kind of smattered into werewolf, but definitely a part of my life.
I think a smattering of werewolf is always the appropriate answer based on the amount of blood and entrails that tends to be involved. So, personal question, do you have a favorite tradition or convention?
Probably NWO. The whole Men in Black thing had always appealed to me, and being down on the streets and amongst everyone while trying to sniff out the dirty reality deviants has always been a favorite story arc for me.
What kind of Mage the Ascension stuff does Rusted Icon make?
It falls into three main things. We have engraved glassware, we have engraved dog tags for people to represent, and then we have vinyl decals so they can plaster their convention or tradition anywhere that they want people to see.
And when you say glassware, what kind of things can I get on a glass?
Mostly pretty much anything inside of the Mage the Ascension IP itself. It's not strictly limited to just your traditions symbol or otherwise. We're open to the rest of it. You just got to get a hold of us because there's so much out there. I can't possibly make a listing for every single thing.
Yeah, I posted a link to your classic MTA tradition etched glassware, and the one image there is the Order of Hermes. It has the serpent with the geometric pattern on top of it. When someone on Facebook was like, oh man, I wish I could have my own tradition glass, and I posted the link to it, and they're like, yeah, but that's only the Order of Hermes. I'm like, there's a drop-down menu. They can't show you everything.
So, I mean, it would be quite a bit of stock to make every single one for a big photo shoot. Although we have made so many of them, we probably could have taken a picture of the orders before they went out. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not limited to what you see there.
So I see all of the traditions, I see all of the technocracy, I see all of the sphere logos. When we talk glassware, what can I get this put on? Like what sizes or what types of things?
The current arrangement that we have is 14-ounce clear tumbler glasses, and then we have three varieties of 16-ounce pint glasses, whether it's clear, cobalt blue glass, or a food-safe red crimson coated glass.
And the cobalt looks pretty sharp, I have to say. That's pretty great. And these are, when you say glass, that is to say they are glass, correct? Or are they acrylic or plastic or something?
These are glass. You drop them, they shatter, they make a mess.
Yeah. Unless you have access to matter or entropy, this is a one-way operation.
Yep, I've unfortunately had to recycle many a pieces from an oopsie.
And in addition to that, you also offer shot glass bundles, which I thought was pretty great. What does a pint glass or a tumbler run?
For the tumblers, we're starting them at 12. We had more of expansion earlier, but we've tried to keep it pretty narrow so we don't have like the entire area full of glassware. Pint glasses, they're right there about 16 on up, pending if you want clear for 16, 18 for cobalt, 20 for crimson. The shot glasses are a little bit less, about 8 apiece, but then they're discounted to about 6 apiece when you get them as part of a bundle. So ultimately the whole thing comes out a bit more balanced in the end.
What do you think the most appropriate sphere on a shot glass is?
It's gotta be matter.
I was going to go with entropy, depending on how far into things. The first one is prime to me. The last one is entropy, and the day after is time. Hopefully, so you can go back and correct that mistake. But yeah, the etch shot bundles are available there, and you can get all of the traditions, the entirety of the technocracy, or all of the spheres on a set. In addition to that, you have something called the Collection Classic Mage. What is that?
All of the mage stuff is in Classic World of Darkness, and so that's a general tag that we use to notate that it's not like related to the new V5 or the 5th edition stuff that they've been trying to put forth.
Now, in addition to the regular lines, for lack of a better term, you also have a bunch of stuff for Mind's Eye Theater. What kind of MET stuff do you have?
The main thing that we have is just the character badges, because there was a group many, many years ago, around 2011, that they had showed up to different LARP events, and they were doing character badges where they'd put your character's name, your symbol on there, and a few attributes, and they were also licensed at the time. We had gotten some for some of our characters back there and loved them, and then they just like disappeared. And so when we were approaching White Wolf initially to ask about licensing, that was one of the big things, because over the years, so many of our friends and other people we gamed with said, man, I really wish I would have got one. I missed that. I need to replace mine. It seemed like a good item just to kind of slide in there that, hey, people are asking about these. We can get those back into their hands. And so the badges are to pretty much revive what that other company had been doing at the time.
And when I look over this, it looks like you also have a custom option. So, for instance, you don't have the Dark Ages symbols that are available, but I assume that if I'm willing to send you a thing, is that an option?
Dark Ages is its own IP, so that's outside of our scope. But we can also do, if you have an own custom symbol that you want, that has nothing to do with licensing at that point, and that's just a complete side project that we can do for you.
Okay, so if all the players in my game, we come up with a symbol for our Cabal or our Chantry, we can shoot that to you and we can get a 5 or 6 glass matching set or something
Absolutely.
like that. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. We've had a couple people do that before.
And what are the dog tags?
Dog tags, they are anodized aluminum, so they're just coated with a certain color. They pretty much follow the same thing. Any of the symbols that we can engrave, it basically takes the color off of the dog tag and leaves that silver underneath. And they have their own ball chain that comes with them, and they're extremely durable. We have some that we've been using as part of our table display for years, and they've been able to take the beating.
You mentioned table display. Where can we get Rusted Icon stuff while we are stuck at home and maybe in the future when we're allowed to make human contact again?
I would love for the human contact, because being at conventions and events was one of the best things about being a retail type creator that we are, is being there and seeing people's reactions to stuff. But in the meantime, until that's a thing, you can get to our website at rusted-icon.net. We have a link to the World of Darkness stuff through there that you can get to that stuff specifically. We have shops set up on Etsy. It's a lot of the World of Darkness stuff there, because a lot of our other things that we do aside from World of Darkness is very unique, one-shot, custom handmade stuff. It would take us hours, days to put up all the pictures of all that stuff online.
Now, once conventions return, is there a way we can find out if Rusted Icon is going to be at an event?
Yes, we keep an updated amount listing on our website. So as soon as we get accepted to one that we know we're going to be, it goes up on the front of our website. So at any point you go there, you can see where we have been, where we tend to go, if we're going to be in person, or if we're only going to be able to ship items to it. Because there have been a couple live LARP events that there hasn't been space to set up a table, but we've been able to send pre-orders to. And we try to make a notation so people realize don't look for our table, but our stuff will still be there. You can order it ahead of time and have it sent there to be picked up at the event.
It looks like right now most things are the vinyl decals, which are pretty straightforward and pretty sharp looking and entirely reasonably priced. The glasses, the dog tags. Do you have any other kind of Old World of Darkness products or projects that you're working on that we can look forward to maybe in the near future?
There are a couple things I'm working on. NDA says until it is approved, you don't get to know.
Understood. But when that happens, if you can tell me, I will tell everyone else, and we will have a grand old party.
Definitely get a word out to you. It will goes up on all of our social media once it's available for either pre-orders or straight out ordering.
In talking beforehand, Rusted Icon does this professionally, but you're not exactly a huge shop, it seems. It's not like you're going out to Laser Co. or something to get this done or something. What is kind of your business's arrangement? How many people are there? Tell me a little about your business, if you wouldn't mind.
We're pretty much based out of Springfield, Illinois, where we live. It is just my wife and I. She owns the company. I work with her. So it's just us slaving over our laser engraver that we've got and a lot of the other. She also does handmade jewelry as well under the Rusted Icon umbrella.
Kind of one of my last questions is, as someone who is also enamored by laser cutting and such, what do you use? Is that like a personal question? Am I allowed to be like, are you using Epilog 960 or what?
I mean, we've posted pictures of it. It's a full spectrum Muse. It's the first generation of the Muse. It's got the little camera inside, so it will take pictures of the laser bed so we can accurately line up projects onto materials. It's been a very good functional for our first major laser into the whole project. So we've been really happy with the stuff that it's been producing. Trial and error with the laser. We used to do sandblasting before this. There's a huge difference between it takes an hour to do a single glass by sandblasting, and then it takes me 15 minutes to do that exact same glass with the laser.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you and I both have a Muse. I recently got the Muse 3D. The 3D was completely useless, but the camera thing is great. So that plus the rotary attachment, and I imagine having your settings dialed in to all get out. I would be fascinated to know what speed and strength, like what speed, current, and power you use, because whenever I do laser etching on it, it's a little bit grainy, and I don't know if that's just on everything or if that's a setting I need to get dialed in.
You actually run low power. I believe I have it set at, we've had to replace the laser tube, so it's not the default one that ours came with, but it runs at only 20% power.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty slow go through then. And I guess you're running it at some fraction of the normal speed. Or I guess you're just doing an incredibly light engraving.
Yeah, it's a light engraving. It runs at about 60% speed. Thereabouts is my starting point, and then I'll fluctuate a couple percentage up or down based on the result of it. Because, yeah, I have got the heavy fracturing. I'm like, I don't feel good sending this out. And so I'll go back and dial back the power a little bit. So it gets a nice, good surface fracturing, but not so much that it's taking chunks out.
On average, if you can say within the US, what is shipping on a glass run?
Typically, I've got it about $10, and that it's just kind of the flat rate we've set to send out a single glass because it helps deal with the fluctuations of packaging and the postage that here and there. It's a good, safe number that we've had because there's numerous that, depending on how it gets packaged, it did cost me a little bit more than that to send it, and I'm fine. It's a good balancing number. When it gets to international, it ranges too much based on the country, and so we've urged the international customers, we've had a lot of abandoned carts when we've contacted them. They're like, the shipping is insane. And I'm like, give me your address. Let me directly quote it. And I kind of give them a more reasonable number because the automatic shipping estimate, I don't know why it throws it off so much, but I've urged international customers to contact what they want, and I'll give them a more reasonable number to work with, get the product to them.
Shipping prices have kind of been a scourge across the RPG industry in all forms. I initially saw $10 for the order, and I'm like, $10? That's until I laser cut it and sent it to somebody, and it was $8.75 plus the packing material. So I'm like, maybe $10 is entirely fine. So,
because there's a lot more that goes into that number that I don't think that it's not just the postage that I'm looking at when it comes to that.
I mean, it's glass. You have to pack it reasonably well. It's something that you can't just kind of throw it into a box and add some peanuts to and send it on its way.
Well, you absolutely could, but then you'd be doing it like 3 more times to make sure one gets there in one piece.
Understood. Is there a way that we can find out what your latest releases are? Do you have a mailing list or a newsletter or anything like that?
We actually do have a newsletter set up on our website. So at like the bottom of the pages, it's got a spot to sign up for the newsletter. We've been trying to stay on top of that for releases, but definitely when it comes to what's going on right now, Facebook and Twitter are the two platforms that when something happens, that's the first place that we send something out. But definitely if someone wants to get signed up for the newsletter, we're going to start doing some pre-release specials that you'll only find out about if you're on the newsletter.
Oh, neat. And what is your Facebook page?
Facebook.com/rustedicon.
Is Twitter something equally creative?
If you mean by creative as in very straightforward and boring, yeah. Also Rusted Icon on Twitter.
Nice. Is there anything you'd like to say about the work you do or your involvement in the World of Darkness?
Overall, the year, I love that they've allowed us to be a part of this, that we've been fans of the IPs, of the World of Darkness in general, taking place in tabletops and LARPs over the years. As fans and players, it's surreal for a small company like us to be allowed to work with the company like that and bring this stuff to the fans that we've heard our friends, I'd love to have this, I'd love to have that. And for us to be able to fill that, hey, we can do that, we got permission to do it, we can make the stuff that you like and that you want. I keep going back to it. It's very surreal to be in that position.
And I hope one day you can steal all of the licenses, because I would fight someone for some Exalted Glassware, and that just doesn't seem to exist. If it does, they really need to work on their SEO. So I hope your RPG Glassware empire slowly expands. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And again, that's Chris Kinner of Rusted Icon, the official licensee partner. What would be the term there?
Licensee partner.
Yeah, licensee partner with Paradox Interactive on the Old World of Darkness lines for licensed glassware and similar merch. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Once again, if you get anything from rusted-icon.net and use the code MTP20, that's MTP20, you'll get 20% off your order. We don't get anything from this. We're just supporting a small business that we think does some really cool merch. And I may have gotten the entire set of Mage the Ascension sphere-themed shot glasses. So if you wind up drinking with me at Gen Con, you may get to see them in action. If that kind of thing ever happens again. Go change reality. Bye.